My family kicked me out of the basement. I paid $1,800 a month to give it to my unemployed brother, but demanded I keep paying. They showed up at my job and harassed me for months. So I disappeared to another state and blocked them all. I'm 29 years old. I work in systems consulting and spend half of each month out of town for projects. And honestly, I need to tell this story because what happened with my family in the last few months basically forced me to move to another state and cut contact with all of them. And when I say all of them, I mean literally all of them. My parents, my brother, my aunt, cousins, uncles, the entire extended family. I know it sounds dramatic, but you'll understand why I got to that point. I guess I should start at the beginning, or how I ended up living in my parents' basement in Edmonton, paying them $1,800 a month. Look, I was always the responsible daughter, you know? The one who got good grades, the one who got a good job after college, the one who never caused problems. My brother Timothy, who's 3 years older than me, let's say he took a different path. He got married young, had 2 kids quickly, and basically always had unstable jobs or was straight up unemployed. But my mom, Frances, always defended him, always had excuses for him, like, oh, he has a family to support, oh, the job market is tough, the typical justifications. I moved into my parents' basement 3 years ago because it made financial sense, or so I thought at the time. I worked out of town 2 weeks a month, so I didn't need a full apartment just for myself. And my parents, Frances and Dennis, offered me the basement they had just finished remodeling. It was a decent space. Honestly, it had its own full bathroom, a small kitchenette, separate entrance. Basically, it was like a mini apartment. They charged me $1,800 a month, which was a bit less than what it would cost to rent something similar in the area, so I accepted. Plus, I thought, it's a good way to help them with their mortgage now that they're close to retirement. What I didn't know, or maybe didn't want to see, was that I was basically becoming their main source of income. My dad was already retired and my mom only worked part-time. The $1,800 I paid covered a good part of their monthly mortgage. And mind you, I paid religiously. Never late a single month. Even when I was traveling for work, I'd transfer the money on time. I was super responsible about it because, they were my parents, and I wanted to keep the relationship good. The thing is, my life was pretty comfortable. I'm not gonna lie. I earned, I could save even while paying that rent. And when I was in the city, I enjoyed having my own space, but with the security of being close to my family. On weekends, sometimes I'd go upstairs to have dinner with them. Typical family stuff. Everything normal, everything fine. Until 8 months ago, my brother Timothy lost his job. Again. I think it was the 4th or 5th time in recent years. I'd already lost count. Timothy was married, had 2 kids aged 8 and 6, and apparently hadn't been paying his mortgage for several months. I didn't find out the complete details until later, but basically the bank was about to kick them out of their house. And that's when my mom called. I remember that call perfectly because I was in a hotel in Calgary for work. It was 9 p.m., and I was reviewing some reports when the phone rang. My mom told me, "Danielle, we need to talk about something important." And I was like, "Okay, Mom, what's up?" And she directly dropped on me that Timothy and his family were going to have to move into the house because they were losing their property. And I said, "Okay, I understand. It's a difficult situation," thinking that maybe they'd use the guest room or something. But no, she told me. "You're going to have to leave the basement because they need the space for the kids." I stayed quiet for 5 seconds, processing what I'd just heard. Excuse me? I said, "Mom, I pay $1,800 a month for that space. You can't just kick me out like that." And she responded with that tone she always uses when she wants to make me feel guilty. "Oh, Danielle, but he's your brother. He has children. They won't have anywhere to live. I thought you'd understand." And I told her, "Look, I understand it's a complicated situation, but give me time to find another place. You can't kick me out overnight," she said. I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks. To find a new place, pack all my stuff, and move, while I was working out of town half the time. But what really bothered me, what really made me angry, was that she didn't even present it as a discussion or a request. It was an order. And when I tried to negotiate or look for alternatives, okay, but then I'll lower the rent because I'll be using less space, or give me a month to organize myself, she just said, No, Danielle, we already decided. Timothy is moving in 2 weeks. Oh, and the alternative they offered me was a joke. My dad Dennis told me I could use my mom's craft room. Literally a 10 by 10-foot room where she had her sewing machine and her scrapbooking stuff, he told me. You can put a mattress there and use the main bathroom upstairs. I mean, they expected me to pay almost $2,000 a month for a tiny room where a bed would barely fit. No private bathroom, no kitchen, nothing. For the same price I was paying before for a complete basement. When I told them that, I made no sense at all. My dad got angry and told me I was being selfish and not thinking about my family. So I moved out. I didn't have many options, honestly. I packed all my stuff in those 2 weeks while juggling work, and I left. But here's the interesting part. I didn't rent a new apartment. Why would I? If I was only in the city 2 weeks a month, I decided I was going to stay in hotels or resorts when I wasn't working. I did the math and it came out to practically the same as paying rent, but with cleaning service, breakfast included sometimes, and zero responsibilities. I could stay in different places each time, like a mini vacation every 2 weeks. Sounded perfect. I stored most of my stuff in a storage unit. I only had a player's suitcase with the essentials that I took to hotels. And honestly, the first few weeks I felt liberated. Like, this is amazing. Why didn't I do this before? I stayed at some beautiful resorts on the outskirts of Edmonton, with pool, gym, everything. I felt like I was on permanent vacation during my weeks off. But of course, my family didn't see things the same way. About a month after I moved out, my mom called me again. And she told me, Danielle, we need you to keep paying rent. And I was like, what? Mom, I don't live there anymore. Why would I pay rent for a place where I'm not? And she told me, well, but we were counting on that money for the mortgage. You can't just stop paying just like that out of nowhere. I literally explained it to her in simple terms, that I paid for a space I used, that they had kicked me out of that space, and that therefore I no longer had any obligation to keep paying. I thought it was pretty logical, right? But no. According to her, I was selfish, insensitive, and I was abandoning my family in a difficult time. She told me that Timothy was going through a terrible situation, that his children needed stability, that how could I be so cruel to deny them help? And I was thinking, wait a minute, I didn't kick them out of their house. I didn't make Timothy lose his job. I'm literally just living my life and not subsidizing another adult person's problems. But saying that out loud made me feel horrible. You know? Like I really was the bad guy in the movie. After that call, I tried to reach a compromise. I sent them $500 with a note that said, this is to help with food expenses now that there are more people in the house, but it's not rent because I don't live there anymore. I thought it was generous. Like, I have no obligation to give them anything, but I want to help because they're my family. Mistake. Huge mistake. Because they took that gesture as confirmation that I should keep paying. The following week, my dad sent me an email. And when I say email, I mean like a 3-page document where he basically told me it was my responsibility to help the family, that they had given me everything when I was a child, that now that I had a good job, it was my turn to give back, and that they expected me to continue contributing financially. He didn't mention a specific amount, just said it should be appropriate according to my income, which, being honest, seemed super invasive and out of place to me. Things got really weird after that. My Aunt Evelyn, my mom's sister, sent me a message like, I heard you're not helping your parents. You should be ashamed. And I was thinking, how does the whole family already know about this? Turns out my parents had been calling all the relatives, telling them their version of the story, where I was the ungrateful daughter who had refused to help her brother in crisis and who had left my poor elderly parents without the income they needed. So they organized what they called a virtual family meeting. Basically a Zoom where my parents were there, my brother with his wife, my Aunt Evelyn, 2 of my uncles, and like 3 cousins. I was at my hotel in Red Deer for work when I logged into the call, having no idea what was waiting for me. I thought maybe they wanted to talk civilly about the situation. It was basically an ambush. One by one, they gave their opinion about how I should be helping my family more. My uncle said that when he was young, he always helped his parents without expecting anything in return. My cousin said that family supports each other through good times and bad. My Aunt Evelyn, who always thinks she's the family's moral guardian, gave like a 10-minute speech about the importance of family ties and responsibility toward loved ones. And there I was, sitting there, with my laptop on the hotel desk, thinking, is this really happening? At no point did they ask for my version of the facts. At no point did they consider that maybe I also had expenses, plans, my own life. And they just assumed I should put all my money at my brother's disposal because he needed it, and I had it. When they finally let me speak, I tried to explain my point of view. I told them I had religiously paid rent for 3 years, that they had kicked me out of the place I was renting, and that it didn't make sense for me to keep paying for something I wasn't using. My brother literally interrupted me and said, "But we need that money, Danielle. I have 2 children to support." And I responded, "Timothy, I'm not responsible for your children. You're the one who should support them." My mom started crying, saying she couldn't believe I was so selfish. My dad yelled at me that I was ungrateful. Timothy told me I had always been the favorite, which is ironic considering they had literally kicked me out of my home to give him the space, and that now that he finally needed something, I was turning my back on him. The meeting ended, with my dad telling me to reconsider my position, or I was going to regret losing my family. I hung up the call, shaking with rage and frustration. But it didn't end there, obviously. Like a week later, my dad sent me another email, this one even longer and more detailed. In this one, he told me exactly how much they expected me to pay monthly. They wanted me to cover my brother's complete mortgage, which was like $2,200 a month before he lost it. But now he wasn't paying anything because it wasn't his anymore. Plus the kids' tuition. They were in a private Catholic school, like $800 a month between the two, plus general expenses for my parents' house. All added up, they wanted me to give them like $3,500 monthly. $3,500 per month for a family that had kicked me out of my home. Can you believe it? And not only that, my dad had made a table in Excel calculating how much they had lost since I stopped paying rent, and he told me I should pay them that back. It was like $6,000 in back payments according to his calculations. He literally wanted me to pay him retroactively for the months I didn't live there. I responded with a really short email saying, "I'm not going to pay any of that. And if you keep pushing, I'm going to have to distance myself from the family for my mental health." I thought being direct, maybe they'd understand the message. But no. Instead of calming down, things escalated even more. My Aunt Evelyn sent me an email like 5 pages long, literally 5 pages in Word, where she explained point by point why it was my duty to help. She mentioned that Timothy's kids needed new uniforms, school supplies, extracurricular activities, and that I, as their aunt, should want to contribute to their well-being. She told me that when she was young, she had worked 3 jobs to help her family, and that I, with my comfortable office job, could easily contribute more. The most absurd thing is she also included a list of specific expenses for the kids, like $200 for soccer classes, $150 for school uniform, $300 for school field trip, as if I were their personal sponsor or something. And Timothy. Oh, Timothy. He started sending me links to Amazon and other online stores. Like, he'd send me the link to a laptop with a message that said, "My oldest son needs it for school. I was thinking maybe you could give it to him." Or the link to some expensive athletic shoes with, "My youngest son needs these for soccer." He wasn't even subtle. Like, he was directly asking me to buy him things without any shame. Every time I refused, came the guilt trip messages. My mom would send me photos of the kids with messages like, "Look how happy they are here with us. I wish their aunt loved them enough to help them." Or my dad would send me, "Your brother didn't sleep last night worrying about money. I hope you're happy." It was exhausting. I literally felt like they were emotionally manipulating me all the time. And then things got really crazy. My mom called my work, my office. She left a message with the receptionist saying it was a family emergency and that I needed to contact her urgently. When I called her back, all worried, thinking someone was in the hospital or something, she told me the emergency was that they needed money for the water bill because it had gone up a lot with more people in the house. It wasn't a medical emergency. It wasn't anything urgent. She just wanted money and thought that calling my work would pressure me more. I told her to never contact my workplace again, that it was completely inappropriate and professionally could get me in trouble. She told me I was exaggerating, that it was just a call, that why did I always make such a big drama out of everything? Like, I'm making the drama? Really? Then my dad started doing what I call a smear campaign among the extended family. He'd call my uncles, cousins, any relative who would listen, and tell them I'd become selfish and materialistic, that money had changed me, that I didn't care about my family anymore, and it worked, unfortunately. I started receiving messages from cousins I barely talked to, telling me they were disappointed in me, that they never thought I'd be like this. Timothy also jumped on the train. He made a post on Facebook. He didn't mention me directly, but it was super obvious it was about me. Something like, "It's sad when the people you love turn their backs on you in your most difficult moment. But I'm grateful for my family who is there for my children." And obviously all the relatives commented supporting him, like, "Oh yes, family is the most important thing. Good thing you have your parents," etc. I felt like the villain in a dramatic soap opera. Things reached an unsustainable point when my parents started showing up at my hotel. Yes, you read that right. Somehow they found out which hotel I was staying at, probably calling several until they found me, and showed up in the lobby with a folder full of bills and receipts. My dad told me they needed me to pay immediately because they had overdue debts. It was super awkward because there were people in the lobby and my dad was talking loudly about money and family obligations. I told them to leave, that I wasn't going to talk about this in public. My mom started crying right there in the lobby, saying she didn't recognize her daughter, that what had happened to me. The hotel staff approached asking if everything was okay, and I had to say yes, that it was a family matter. Super embarrassed by the whole scene. My parents finally left, but only after I promised them we'd talk later, Lee. I had no intention of calling them. And then they did something I never thought they'd do. My mom started contacting my friends, my personal friends. She'd send them messages on Facebook, telling them she was worried about me, that she thought I was going through a crisis or something because I distanced myself from the family. She suggested to them that maybe I needed psychological help. Basically, she was trying to make me look like I was having a mental breakdown, so my friends would pressure me to reconcile with the family. One of my best friends sent me screenshots of the messages and told me, "What's up with your mom? This is super weird." And there I was trying to explain the whole situation to her, feeling completely humiliated that my family life was so dysfunctional. Another friend told me my mom had sent her like 3 different messages in 1 week, each one more dramatic than the last. Timothy also started sending me increasingly aggressive messages. One of them said, "Because of you, my kids are going to have to leave their school. I hope you can live with that." Another said, "Someday you're going to need help from your family and no one is going to be there for you." And the worst one was where he said I was the reason his marriage was under stress, that his wife blamed him for having a family that didn't support them, and that basically I was destroying his life. And honestly, I started doubting myself. Like, am I really such a bad person? Should I be helping more? Is it normal for a family to expect this? I'd spend nights awake turning the matter over in my head, feeling guilty, even though rationally I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's weird how emotional manipulation can make you question your own reality. But there was a breaking point. My parents showed up at my workplace. They literally went to my office. They asked for me at reception, and when they were told I was in a meeting, they stayed waiting in the lobby. My boss came out to deal with something else, saw them there, and they told him they were my parents and that they needed to talk to me urgently about an important family matter. My boss called me, pulling me out of the meeting, super worried, thinking something serious had happened. When I saw my parents in the lobby, I almost lost it. I told them to leave, immediately, that it was completely inappropriate for them to come to my work. My dad pulled out that damn folder again with the bills and told me that if they couldn't talk to me on the phone or in person, they had to look for me where they could find me. I had to ask them to leave, in front of my colleagues who were passing by, obviously wondering what was happening. My mom told me loudly, "Your nephews need you, Danielle. I can't believe you're so cold." It was humiliating. After they left, my boss asked me if everything was okay, if I needed to talk to someone. I had to explain to him in broad strokes what was happening, feeling like a complete idiot for having to air my family drama at work. That night, I made a decision. I was fed up. I literally couldn't take the situation anymore. I had received a job offer in another state a few months ago for a more permanent project that required relocation. At the time, I had rejected it because I thought I wanted to stay close to my family. But now, after all this, I called the company and asked if the offer was still available. They said yes. I accepted the job. I didn't tell my parents or Timothy anything. I just accepted the offer, started making arrangements for the move, and prepared to leave. I hired a moving company to pick up my stuff from the storage unit, sold my car and bought a new one in the state where I was moving, changed my phone number, and basically prepared to disappear. I sent my parents an email a week before leaving. I told them I had accepted a job in another state, that I was moving permanently, and that I needed space from the family. I made it clear that I wasn't going to give my new address or my new phone number, and that I didn't want them to contact me. I told them that maybe in the future, when things calmed down, we could try to rebuild the relationship, but that for now I needed complete distance. My mom called me like 50 times the next day. I sent her a text message saying I wasn't going to answer calls and to respect my decision. Timothy sent me a super long message, blaming me for everything, saying it was my fault his family was in that situation, that how could I be so selfish to leave, that someday I was going to regret it. My Aunt Evelyn sent me another giant email about the importance of family and how I was making a terrible mistake. But I was already decided. I moved like 2 months ago to a state on the West Coast. I got a beautiful apartment, started my new job, and honestly, I feel free for the first time in years. I no longer have that constant weight on my chest, that anxiety of looking at my phone and wondering if it's going to be another message asking me for money or blaming me for something. I blocked everyone on social media. I blocked their phone numbers. I told my friends not to share any information about me with my family. Basically, I cut off all contact. And yes, I feel guilty sometimes. Obviously, I feel guilty. They're my parents. He's my brother. They're my nephews. But I also know that what they were doing to me wasn't normal or healthy. I've started going to therapy here in my new city. My therapist has helped me understand that what my family was doing is called financial and emotional abuse. That it's not normal for them to kick you out of your home, demand that you keep paying, harass you at your workplace, and emotionally manipulate you when you don't do what they want. It sounds obvious when you say it like that, but when you're in the middle of the situation, it's hard to see it clearly. The last time I heard from my family was like 3 weeks ago. My dad somehow got my new phone number. I suspect he got it from some relative who still has contact with me, and sent me a message saying that Timothy and his family had had to move again because my parents could no longer support them financially, and that it was all my fault. He told me my nephews were asking about me, that they didn't understand why their aunt didn't visit them anymore. I blocked that number too, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty doing it, because I understood that as long as I keep responding, as long as I keep giving them any kind of attention or money, they're going to keep expecting me to solve their problems. And I'm not responsible for solving the problems of adults who made their own decisions. My brother is still unemployed as far as I know. He keeps posting on Facebook about how hard his life is, though he never mentions me directly now. My parents, I guess, continue with their normal routine, maybe with a little less income now that they don't have my rent. And I'm here, in my new apartment, with my new job, building a life that's truly mine. Do I regret how I handled things? Sometimes. Maybe I should have set clearer boundaries from the beginning. Maybe I should have moved out of their house much earlier. Maybe I should have told them no from the first time they asked me to keep paying rent. But I can't change the past. I can only control my present and my future. What I do know is that cutting contact was the right decision for me. It hurt. It still hurts sometimes. When I think about my nephews or the good times I had with my family before all this happened. But I also know I can't set myself on fire to keep others warm, you know? At some point, you have to choose yourself. Even if that means walking away from the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. Now, I'm focused on building my own chosen family, healthy friendships, relationships that don't depend on how much money I can give or how much I can sacrifice. And honestly, it's liberating. It's sad, but it's liberating.